What is real? And what is an illusion? What is real and what is illusory? Well, I know certainly that I am real, and thus I know certainly that you are real, as you and I are one. So we are both real. And we can relate to each other in a way that is real. If I look at one definition of the word real, it says actually existing as a thing or in fact. So there's no way that I can deny that I am real. And as there is no separation, I am cannot be divided, I know certainly that you are real. We are real. Now, if we look at the definition of illusion, a thing that is or is likely to be wrongly perceived or interpreted by a deceptive appearance. Deceptive appearance. Another definition has it, false idea or belief. False idea or belief. So false ideas and beliefs, thoughts that are deceptive, belong to what the Bible refers to as the old man. In Ephesians 4:22 to 24, it states, "Put off concerning the former conversation the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lusts, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness." So, as we've been discussing, holiness means wholeness. Now, if you exist and I exist, and we know certainly that we are real, I am cannot be divided, and there is no separation, then how can we really think in terms of separation? That wouldn't be really thinking. That kind of thinking, separation-based thinking, belongs to the old man. For example, if we look at the auto-suggestion that Neville Goddard had once shared with us, which is the Dr. Millikan auto-suggestion, it is, I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. Notice, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. Now, over the years, I have built 3 businesses to success. And the relationships that I formed in those businesses, whether they be vendors, clients, team members, I found that harmonious relationships were a result of integrity and mutual benefit. Think of, for example, if a person were to build a business, not from the premise of our true nature, which is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And why I say that is, if there is no separation, which there is no separation between you and there's no separation in general, how can I really think in terms of lacking love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment? That arises from old man beliefs. Speaking of which, one of the translations refers to the old man as old self. Old self. Not the true self. Not the true man. The true self is one with all. And thus, I can't think of you from the premise of any kind of belief in relation with you that is not from the premise of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, because I don't seek those things. I have those things. Anytime we desire love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, that is an opportunity to acknowledge that I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. That I have love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Neville had said one time, what you desire, you already have. You found it in the form of desire. So old man thinking generates the illusion of craving for love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Suffering as a result of seeking externally and seeming not to find it, even though it's here now. Seeking externally for love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So that part, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. If, let's say, a person builds a business or makes money through taking advantage of people, we have seen many times in the world of business that can result in suffering in some shape or form. Unnecessary conflict. And there's no need to actually do that. Because you can have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. And there's no side effects from that, other than you can say positive side effects, like wonderful relationships, wonderful life experiences. Now, this is also true, speaking of business relationships, this is also true for romantic relationships, personal relationships. We can be real with each other. We can do that. By being real with each other, we find that relationships end up being harmonious. And by not operating from their true nature of mutual harmony, integrity, they generate suffering-based experiences. That is what I call illusory experiences. They are not needed. If, however, they accept themselves the way they are, acknowledge themselves as being love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and thus acknowledging the other person as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and imagining the relationship accordingly, sure enough, the relationship plays out that way. I have seen it happen many times, which is why I recommend that autosuggestion. I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit, because you can have a lavish, steady, dependable income, as your true nature is fulfillment. And if that is a symbol of fulfillment, then it's yours. And we can have it in a way that is consistent with integrity and mutual benefit, as there is no separation between you and I. So why do I need to generate illusions of separation by me benefiting and you losing, or you benefiting and me losing? Because that is clearly a false idea or belief. It's a false belief. Why? Because it suggests illusions of separation. Now, no shame and condemnation. That is not you really thinking. Taking advantage of a person, or that person losing, or you losing, and them winning, and it's not in harmony. That's old man thinking. So that is what is referred to as the old man, which is corrupt. Because the old man may think that there's no way to experience an outcome in a way that is in harmony with all. That is not reality, because reality is in harmony with all. To think otherwise would be unwise, would generate illusions of suffering, illusions of separation. So we can have harmonious relationships, real relationships. Relationships where we can speak in a way where we understand the other person, they understand us, we can communicate openly and honestly, and we find that we imagine the same things, and they appear that way. I trust you've noticed this. When you think in terms of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment towards another person, when you imagine the relationship to be that way, it does appear that way. It does show up that way. They do appear that way. And you can be yourself around them. And by that I mean, very specifically, there's no illusory thinking. There's no illusory behaviors convoluting the experience. There's only you being real with them. So how do we do this? How do we not identify with the old man, which again is not you? You are the true self, which is distinct from the old man, as the old man thinks in terms of separation. And that's clearly illusory thinking. That is not real. So, Neville says, it was a flash of the deepest insight that taught Paul to write, "Put off the former conversation, the old man, which is corrupt, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Put on the new man. Put on the new man, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind," is to change your inner conversation, for speech and mind are one. A change of speech is a change of mind, and he's referring to the Hermetica, where it was stated that there were two gifts bestowed upon humanity. They were mind and speech. And as he says here, the gift of mind and speech is equivalent to that of immortality, which is what it says also in the Hermetica. He says, if a man uses these two gifts rightly, he will differ in nothing from the immortals. And when he quits, his body, mind, and speech will be his guides. And by them, he will be brought into the troop of the gods and the souls that have attained to bliss. With the gift of mind and speech, you create the conditions and circumstances of life. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word, said Hermes, is Son, and mind is Father of the Word. They are not separate one from the other, for life is the union of word and mind. You and your inner talking or word are one. If your mind is one with your inner conversations, then to be transformed in mind is to be transformed in conversation. So how does this apply in relationships, personal relationships, business relationships? Well, we are aware of what we are imagining prior to interactions with people, during interactions with people, and after interactions with people. Are we imagining them in a way that is considered to be harmonious relationships? Are we imagining them engaging in wonderful life experiences with us, enjoying wonderful conversations? And in business, for example, do you, if you are an entrepreneur, imagine providing wonderful service for your clients in a way where they are benefiting greatly? You can imagine having an inner conversation with them where they say, thank you for this product or service. It's benefiting me greatly. I have wonderful life experiences now thanks to what you have created. For example, in my IT business, prior to going over to my client sites, I would imagine them having benefited greatly from the service and saying to me, what else do you offer? Thus generating. And it actually appeared that way, exactly like how I imagined, because I am not identified with illusions which belong to the old man. The old man thinks in terms of separation. You really think for yourself. You think from the premise of fulfilled desire. By that I mean specifically love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. If you think in terms of having a wonderful relationship with your clients. You imagine yourself having a wonderful relationship with them. And it appears that way. And increasingly, I like to say increasingly, lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. The same as relationships. We are aware of what we imagine when we think of a person that we are interested in. Do we imagine them rejecting us? Or do we imagine being in a harmonious relationship with them? Do you think in terms of separation? That's old man thinking. Or do you imagine yourself having a wonderful conversation with them, relating with you ideally? Let's say, for example, and this is something that I used to do back in the days, which is not me really thinking. This was a result of identification to the old man. Let's say I saw someone that I was interested in posting on Facebook, and then I would interpret that post in a way that would suggest separation. That's old man thinking. what that would do was generate suffering. And then when I would interact with the person, I would interact with them inharmoniously. And it would seem to appear, as a result of those identifications, that they weren't interested in me, even though clearly they were. They even mentioned it to me afterwards. They said, I am interested in you. Why did you think otherwise? And I was too embarrassed to bring up that I was interpreting, and I felt embarrassed to bring up the Facebook post. Nowadays, I would do it. I would say, you know what? That's what I interpreted. And let's say if I did say that, they would accept me. Because I've said a lot of things in conversations, in relationships, where before I thought I wouldn't be accepted for saying it. I would think they would laugh at me, or they wouldn't think that I was this or that kind of person that they want to be with. Rather, when I communicated authentically, they accepted me. Because who doesn't accept a person the way they are? If we think that people don't accept us the way that we are, we generate illusions, which again, going back to what we mentioned in the beginning, a thing that is or is likely to be wrongly perceived or interpreted by a deceptive appearance. Who is the one doing the deceiving? The old man is doing the deceiving. We can say then it just appears that way based on identification to old man thinking. So now we see clearly that the deceptive thinking is generating illusory experiences. When really people appear to be in harmony with you. As I always say, everything appears to be in harmony with you. You appear to be in harmony with all. I appear to be in harmony with you. You appear to be in harmony with me. That is what I call ideal harmonious relationships. So whether it is having a conversation with a friend like this, or interacting with someone you're interested in, you are aware of what you think prior to conversations, during conversations, after conversations. And if the inner talking, the inner speech, or imaginal conversations being carried on in relation to the other person are not from the premise of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, we, in that moment, take the opportunity to put off the former conversation. Now, in Thursday's video, I discussed how meditation has been very helpful for me. And also I spoke about living the meditation. That's also what we're talking about today. By putting off the former conversation, we are actually living the meditation practice. This time we are talking about living the meditation practice in harmonious relationships, prior to interactions with people, during interactions with people, after interactions with people. There's always a space. There's always a space where you are aware of what you are about to identify with as far as imaginal activity. And what I mean by this very specifically is, let's say you are having a conversation with a person and they say something, and you notice that you are about to imagine them being in conflict with you. It appears in mind that way. That space where you are aware of that what appears in mind is where all the power is. As I always say, now is where all the power is. So if that imaginal activity clearly belongs to the old man, which is not from the premise of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, you can choose to not identify with it. And I trust, as you have done this, as I have noticed as well, the conversations and the relationships appear to change. And this is not just true for one-on-one interactions. I remember one time I was at an event, and I walked into the room, and it appears that I was identified with old man thinking, because what appeared, the illusory appearances, was it appeared that people were walking away from me. They didn't want to talk with me. I felt like I wasn't welcome there. And I remember putting off that former conversation. And then what appeared is them actually moving towards me, them engaging in conversation with me, and me feeling like I am welcome there, that they are in harmony with me, they are in harmony with each other, I am in harmony with them. That is real. That is not illusory. That is what I call a physical, emotional, mental integration of the spiritual truth. So all we're doing is putting off the former conversation, which is not you really thinking as you are real. The former conversations that suggest separation in mind belong to the old man. We don't think that way anymore. We put off those former conversations. And each time we do this, each time those former conversations appear in mind and we don't identify with them, mind is purified from the beliefs that are generating, the beliefs that belong to the old man, that are generating illusions of separation. I trust you've noticed this as you continue to practice this. And then what plays out is harmonious relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, business relationships that are always consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. You don't have to try to manipulate the person, convince them, try to control them. You don't shame and condemn yourself. You don't shame and condemn them. And prior to interactions, during interactions, and after interactions, if you think about them, you imagine them lovingly. You imagine them fulfilled. You imagine your relationship with them lovingly, fulfilled, blissfully, peacefully, happiness-based, which is our true nature, as there is no separation. Remember, I am cannot be divided. The old man may think that, because the old man thinks in terms of separation. And as a result of old man thinking, the old man thinks in terms of deception, deceit, as stated in Ephesians. So thus the remedy is to put off the former conversation. Put off identifying with those untrue thinking patterns, that untrue imaginal activity that belongs to the old man. And each time you do it, with each repetition, it becomes easier, 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 and easier as reality then begins to appear more so to be in harmony with you. What appears is harmonious relationships, mutually harmonious relationships. There's no win-lose. everyone benefits greatly. Equilibrium, harmonious relationships, relationships that you genuinely desire to engage with. They genuinely desire to be with you. You genuinely desire to be with them, because to suggest that reality works otherwise is unwise, which again is old man thinking, unwise thinking. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, I really think for myself, as I know that I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Thus, I know that they are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Thus, I imagine harmonious relationships from the premise of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment with them, and they appear accordingly, as there is no separation, only harmony with all, as I remain as I am.